My name is Ananya Sharma. There's a particular quietude that settles over you when you've learned to navigate life by observing rather than engaging, a stillness born from years of standing just outside the warm circle of familial ease. It was in this familiar state of quiet observation that I found myself at my brother Rohan's engagement party, the crystal flute of champagne feeling cool and foreign in my hand. Rohan, bless his heart, had always possessed a talent for the grand gesture, a flair for the dramatic that often left me, his more introspective older sister, feeling like a pale moth fluttering at the edge of his vibrant flame. He tapped his glass, a mischievous glint in his eyes that I knew all too well. It was the same look he'd had as a boy, just before he'd accidentally release my carefully collected butterflies or helpfully reorganize my meticulously arranged bookshelves into delightful chaos. "Friends, family," Rohan announced, his voice resonating through the elegantly appointed conservatory, fragrant with white roses and lilies, "before we raise another glass to my beautiful fiancée, Mira, and our future together, I want to take a moment to acknowledge someone very special." He gestured towards me with a flourish, a practiced smile playing on his lips. "My dear sister, Ananya." "Anya, darling, do stand up. Don't be a wallflower." A familiar tightening in my chest, a silent bracing. This was unlikely to be a simple, heartfelt acknowledgement. I rose slowly, smoothing the fabric of my lavender silk dress, a dress chosen specifically for its understated elegance, its ability to blend rather than announce. Years of navigating Rohan's casual, often unintentional, barbs about my quieter, less conventional path had taught me the wisdom of soft colors and subtle presence at family gatherings. 200 pairs of eyes, reflecting the soft glow of the chandeliers, turned towards me. "I want you all to meet my wonderfully unique sister," Rohan continued, his tone a careful blend of affection and condescension. "Ananya, who, at the glorious age of 32, is still courageously navigating the bohemian lifestyle, sharing a flat, bless her artistic soul. While some of us," he winked at Mira, "are, settling down, building homes, embracing adulthood, dear Anya is still exploring her options." It's rather endearing, isn't it? A ripple of uncomfortable laughter, quickly suppressed by some, indulged by others, mostly Rohan's university friends and newer business acquaintances, eager to align themselves with his jovial, successful persona. "Perhaps we should start a little support Ananya's independent living fund?" Rohan chuckled, warming to his theme. "Though, honestly, I'm not sure even a sprawling penthouse would suit her. She's been toiling away at her little, what is it you call it, Anya? Your creative venture? For, 3, maybe 4 years now? Still waiting for that big breakthrough, are we, sis? Any day now, I'm sure." A flush crept up my neck, warm and unwelcome. Mira, beside him, her smile a little too fixed, offered no intervention. She'd been perfectly gracious during our brief interactions, but this was Rohan's stage, his moment, and the unspoken rule was that Rohan's narrative, however embellished, went unchallenged. "Remember when we were children?" Rohan was truly in his element now, his voice dripping with mock nostalgia. "Anya always had these grand dreams. She was going to be an innovator, change the world with her brilliant ideas. Well, here we are. I'm a senior partner at Innovate Futures Consulting. Just closed a rather significant deal last quarter." He paused, allowing the weight of his achievement to settle. "And Ananya is, well, she's still passionately pursuing her craft. It's something to do with sustainable textiles, I believe." "Something like that," I replied, my voice quiet, but, I hoped, steady. The sting of public humiliation was a familiar ache, one I'd learned to absorb with a practiced calm. "She's terribly modest about it," Rohan confided to the room in a stage whisper. "And who can blame her? It must be challenging, watching your younger brother soar to such heights, career, engagements, life in general. But hey," he spread his hands magnanimously, "not everyone is cut out for the fast track, are they? We need the dreamers too, the ones who remind us to slow down. It was at that precise moment that I saw him, a figure of quiet authority, entering the conservatory from the terrace. Mr. Alok Varma, the founder and CEO of Innovate Futures Consulting, a man renowned for his business acumen, his philanthropy, and his decidedly low public profile. He was, as was his custom, impeccably dressed in a charcoal gray suit that spoke of understated power, his silver hair neatly combed, his expression thoughtful. His arrival caused an immediate, hushed ripple through the room. Several of Rohan's colleagues straightened their ties, their expressions shifting to ones of eager deference. But Mr. Varma's gaze wasn't on them. It swept the room with a practiced eye until it found me, and then a warm, genuine smile transformed his usually serious features. "Ah, that must be the esteemed Mr. Varma now," Rohan announced, still blissfully unaware of who had actually captured his boss's attention. He mentioned he might be able to make an appearance. "You see, Anya? This is what success looks like. When you're a valued asset, the CEO himself graces your engagement party." I watched as Mr. Varma navigated the room, his progress marked by a trail of respectful nods and murmured greetings. He politely declined a proffered glass of champagne, his focus clearly elsewhere. He was moving directly towards me. Rohan, meanwhile, continued his monologue. "Mr. Varma will be so impressed to meet my family. Well," he amended with a sly glance in my direction, "most of my family. Anya, dear, perhaps you should find a seat before." "Ananya." Mr. Varma's voice, though not loud, carried a distinct note of warmth and pleasure that cut through Rohan's words. He covered the remaining distance with a brisk, purposeful stride, his smile widening. "My dear Ananya, there you are. I've been trying to connect with you all afternoon." He reached me and, to the astonishment of the onlookers, enveloped me in a brief, respectful embrace, the kind shared between trusted colleagues or old friends. The conservatory fell into a sudden, profound silence. "My apologies for the tardiness," Mr. Varma said, his hand resting lightly on my shoulder. "The board meeting regarding the Asha project ran considerably longer than anticipated. But the news is good. They've approved the final stage funding." He then turned to the assembled guests, his arms still resting companionably on my shoulder, a gesture of easy camaraderie that spoke volumes. "Good evening, everyone. Forgive the interruption. I'm Alok Varma. I simply had to offer my congratulations and profound gratitude to this remarkable young woman in person." Rohan's face, moments before alight with self-satisfaction, had paled considerably. "Mr. Varma, you know my sister?" Alok Varma chuckled, a rich, warm sound. "Know her? Ananya is the very heart of the Asha project. She's the reason Innovate Futures is poised to become a leader in sustainable global development." He looked at me, his eyes filled with genuine admiration. "And thank you again, Ananya, for allowing me to use your guest house at the Sanj estate last week. It was the perfect quiet retreat I needed to review those complex international trade agreements before the final presentation." "Sanj estate," Mira whispered, her perfectly applied lipstick suddenly looking a shade too bright against her now pale complexion. "Partner. Project partner, of course," Mr. Varma clarified, his smile unwavering. Though, in truth, partner hardly does justice to Ananya's role. She is the founder and principal visionary of Sanj Living, the parent organization that conceptualized and developed the Asha project. In essence, he added with a gentle inclination of his head towards me, she's the one guiding our collaborative ship. My firm is merely providing the consultancy framework and logistical support. The silence in the room was now so complete it felt almost tangible. I could almost see the gears turning in Rohan's mind as he struggled to process this sudden, startling recalibration of his perceived reality. "But that's impossible," Rohan stammered, his voice thin. She shares a flat. She barely makes ends meet. Shares a flat." Mr. Varma looked genuinely perplexed for a moment. Then a look of understanding dawned. Ah, you must be referring to Priya and Dev. They aren't her flatmates, Rohan. They are her co-founders at Sanj Living, her closest collaborators. They all reside in the main house at the Sanj estate when they are in the country. It's a wonderfully collaborative environment, more of a creative campus than a traditional residence. Much more conducive to innovation when one is spearheading. What is it now, Ananya? 3 distinct social enterprises under the Sanj umbrella. 3 enterprises? The whisper came from somewhere in the stunned crowd. Mr. Varma nodded, his enthusiasm for my work evident. Sanj Living, which focuses on sustainable artisan cooperatives. Sanj Earth, which develops eco-friendly agricultural practices for smallhold farmers. And, of course, the Vasha Project, our joint venture, which is pioneering renewable energy solutions for remote communities. And that's not even mentioning Ananya's private foundation, which quietly funds scholarships for young women in STEM fields across South Asia. He shook his head, a gesture of profound respect. The ethical sourcing patent she secured for the textile cooperatives alone. Alok, our legal counsel, estimates its potential impact in the 7-figure range annually for those communities. I gently touched Mr. Varma's arm. Alok ji, this is Rohan and Mira's celebration. We shouldn't. Yes, quite right, my dear. Mr. Varma looked momentarily abashed. One does get carried away when discussing work one is passionate about. And the Asha project, thanks to Ananya's vision, is truly transformative. He turned to Rohan, extending his hand with a warm smile. Rohan, my boy, congratulations on your engagement. And on having such an extraordinary sister. You are indeed fortunate to have Ananya in your family. Rohan shook Mr. Varma's hand, his own feeling limp and clammy in the older man's firm grip. His face was a mask of disbelief. Wait a moment, Mr. Varma continued, a new thought striking him. You mentioned you're a senior partner at Innovate Futures? Excellent. Which division are you heading up? I'm in the urban development sector, Rohan managed, his voice barely a croak. Kapoor's team. A solid division. Mr. Varma then glanced at me, a subtle, knowing smile playing on his lips. You know, Ananya, once the Asha project officially launches next quarter, there will be significant restructuring within Innovate Futures to support its global rollout. Your insights into reallocating resources and identifying key leadership for the new International Development Wing will be invaluable. International Wing? Her insights. Rohan's voice cracked. As the primary stakeholder and visionary behind the Asha project, naturally Ananya will have considerable influence on the strategic direction and staffing of the teams dedicated to it, Mr. Varma confirmed smoothly. She hasn't mentioned it to you? We've been discussing her potential advisory role to the board on these matters. My role, increasingly, will be to implement the strategies she helps formulate. At that moment, our parents, who had been observing this unfolding drama from the edge of the crowd with expressions of bewildered astonishment, pushed their way forward. Mom reached us first, her eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and a dawning, incredulous hope. Anya, darling, what is all this? Before I could formulate a response, Mr. Varma's phone emitted a discreet buzz. He glanced at it and sighed. That will be our legal team in London. We need your final electronic signature on the revised funding agreements, Ananya. I know this is hardly the time, but it's quite all right, Alok ji, I said, finding my voice at last, a quiet calm settling over me. Rohan and Mira were just sharing some family anecdotes. I'm sure they understand. Family anecdotes? Mr. Varma looked from my composed face to Rohan's stricken one, then back again, a flicker of understanding in his astute eyes. His expression hardened slightly. You know, Ananya, perhaps it's for the best. The team back at the Sanj estate has been eagerly awaiting your return. They've prepared a small celebration for the Asha project funding approval. Priya baked that lemon and cardamom cake you love. That sounds lovely, I said. The thought of the quiet warmth of Sanj, the genuine camaraderie of my team, felt like a balm to my spirit. Anya, wait. Rohan's voice was desperate now, his earlier arrogance completely vanished. He reached out, his hand grasping my arm. "You can't just leave. It's my engagement party. People will wonder." I gently disengaged his hand. "I don't know, Rohan. What will they wonder when they search for Sanj Living or the Asha Project online tonight? What will they think when the official press release about the funding and our partnership with Innovate Futures is issued on Monday morning? What will they conclude when they realize the Bohemian sister you so charmingly described is, in fact, the quiet force behind a multi-million-pound global initiative?" I can make amends," he stammered, his eyes pleading. We can start anew. We're family, Anya. We are siblings, Rohan," I corrected softly. "But family, true family, uplifts and supports. It doesn't diminish for sport or belittle for an audience." Mr. Varma cleared his throat. "The car is waiting by the terrace entrance, Ananya. Priya and Dev are already there with the final documents for your review." I looked at Rohan one last time. His face was a battleground of conflicting emotions, shock, regret, and a dawning, palpable fear. Fear, perhaps, that his carefully curated image was unraveling. Fear that his own position within Innovate Futures might now be viewed through a different, less flattering lens. Fear, most profoundly, that the sister he had consistently underestimated held a quiet power he had never perceived. "Congratulations on your engagement, Rohan, and to you, Mira," I said, my voice gentle but firm. "I wish you both happiness." As I turned to leave with Mr. Varma, the conservatory, moments before filled with polite applause and laughter, was now awash in a sea of stunned whispers and furtive glances. Phones were already emerging from pockets and evening bags, fingers flying across screens as guests began their hasty online searches. "Oh, and one final thought, Rohan," Mr. Varma called back over his shoulder, his tone mild but carrying an unmistakable weight. "As part of the upcoming strategic realignment at Innovate Futures, all senior roles will be under review. We'll be looking for individuals who demonstrate not only professional competence, but also integrity, humility, and a genuine commitment to collaborative success." He paused, then added, with a subtle emphasis, "Ananya places a very high value on authentic leadership. She has little tolerance for performative contributions." The last image I saw as the ornate glass doors of the conservatory closed behind me was Rohan's face, pale, crestfallen, the smirk entirely extinguished, replaced by the dawning, uncomfortable understanding that his unique, older sister had been playing a far more significant and far quieter game than he had ever imagined. In the sanctuary of the waiting car, the scent of leather and cedar a welcome change from the cloying sweetness of the party's floral arrangements, Alok Varma regarded me with a kind, understanding smile. "My dear Ananya," he said, shaking his head slightly, "your brother, he has much to learn about the nature of true strength. He has always needed the spotlight, Alok-ji," I replied, a touch of weariness in my voice. "I found it simpler, long ago, to cede it to him, to pursue my own work in the quiet shadows. And in those quiet shadows, you have built something truly remarkable," Mr. Varma said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "Never let anyone, not even family, dim the light of your accomplishments." "People often underestimate the power of quiet diligence," I mused, watching the city lights begin to blur as we drove towards the tranquility of Sanj. "It has, in many ways, been my most effective strategy." My phone, which I had silenced earlier, began to vibrate insistently in my purse. A cascade of messages, from my parents, their tone a mixture of bewildered apology and dawning pride, from Rohan, a string of increasingly desperate pleas for understanding, from Mira, a tentative, almost fearful inquiry. Even a few from distant relatives who, mere hours ago, had chuckled politely at Rohan's jests. I let the phone continue its silent summons unread. They had had years, countless opportunities, to ask, to see, to understand. They had chosen, instead, to accept Rohan's narrative, his carefully constructed hierarchy. Now, they could reflect on the truth they had so readily overlooked. As we approached the gates of Sanj, its warm, welcoming lights spilling onto the tree-lined drive, I saw Priya and Dev waiting on the veranda, their faces alight with genuine excitement, champagne flutes already in hand. My true team. My chosen family. The individuals who had believed in my vision when it was nothing more than a collection of sketches and impassioned words, who had celebrated every small milestone and weathered every storm by my side. Ready to officially launch a new era, Anya? Dev asked, his eyes sparkling, holding out a pen and the final set of agreements. More than ready, I replied, stepping out of the car and into the embrace of the place I had built, not from inherited wealth or familial connections, but from passion, perseverance, and a quiet, unshakable belief in the power of sustainable change. Behind me, in the glittering city, Rohan's engagement party would undoubtedly continue, though its celebratory air was likely irrevocably altered. The story he had so confidently spun for years, the narrative of his own ascendancy and his sister's gentle, harmless obscurity, had just met its quiet, definitive end. And in a way, I realized, that was perhaps the most honest and, ultimately, freeing gift I could have offered him, the unvarnished, undeniable truth. The rest of his journey, the path towards genuine understanding and perhaps, eventually, reconciliation, was now his own to navigate. My path, illuminated by the steady light of purpose and surrounded by the quiet strength of authentic connection, stretched clearly before me.